Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the wilds of Suffolk. I'm out in the forest again to talk at you as it's a one-way conversation. I'm the only one talking, but I'm so pleased you're here to listen to this nonsense, this craziness as I've been told, and to join me for the journey. I'm ever so pleased that you that all the people that have subscribed to my channel, I can't believe it is as many as it is. Thank you very much for the subscribes. Thank you very much for being here if it's your first time here. Really appreciate you being along. Now this channel, I set this channel up a few months ago to put my thoughts and opinions out into the world and start conversations and let people know how I think. And what I've found is that I'm not alone. I'm not alone in my thoughts and opinions on how I see the world. And the more these videos go along, whilst people don't agree with everything I say, you're not supposed to. And today's little talk is probably going to be one of those ones that you might not agree with. And you don't have to. You might not agree with everything I think. But the idea is for these talks is to challenge how we all think. I challenge how I think constantly. I constantly go back and look at my thoughts and ideas and how I treat people and how I want to go through the world. Now, my last video, I talked about how the perception of me doing what I'm doing is going to hurt my career, how it's going to, my thoughts and opinions, me sharing my thoughts and opinions will damage my reputation. And that leads me on to today's subject. That subject of today is called social engineering. Now, if you don't know what social engineering is, I wrote it down because I want to make sure I get the definition right. So I wrote down the definition from the dictionary. Social engineering, the use of centralized planning in an attempt to manage social change and regulate the future development and behavior of a society. Now, if you've been through my videos, or any of them, you would know how much I dislike centralization. Centralization of information, centralization, control of money, centralization of anything. Government creates an environment where you have a very small group of people who determine how the rest of us are going to live. One of the biggest social engineering groups that we have in the world is the World Economic Forum, WEF. One of the biggest social engineering programs that they run in conjunction with the United Nations is this Great Reset that we're talking about, that I have talked about. So there's two different things that are happening. It's either the Great Reset or the Great Awakening. I've been through that in one of my previous videos. And I'd urge you to go and have a look, or Nasara and Jasara is the other name for it. Now, when you have groups like World Economic Forum, that is millionaires and billionaires getting together to tell us, they get it together once a year, which is happening right now in Davos in Switzerland, where the millionaires and billionaires get together once a year to discuss ideas on how the average person should live, the rules that we're all governed by. Now, I want you to bear in mind that the majority of the people who attend the World Economic Forum are not governmental leaders. They're not leaders of country, although there are governmental leaders, but they go there to be instructed by industry and millionaires and billionaires on how we should insert social change into our societies. Now, the problem I have with a centralized authority telling everyone how they should live is we have across the world many different influences on our culture, where we come from, our political, geopolitical, socio-economic. There's so many influences in our society that these people seek to control. Now, it's such a broad topic that it's hard to know where to begin. So we all like to look at the United Nations as being a good thing for the world. And perhaps the idea, the concept of the United Nations is good. It should be serving the world. But does it? Now, when you have an NGO, a non-governmental organisation, and there are many of them. So you have the World Economic Forum, you have the United Nations, you have many of these big institutions that are non-governmental, which means they're not beholden to anyone. they write the laws for themselves. They're a law unto themselves. So if they mandate something, like the World Health Organization, for instance, the countries of the world choose to be in the World Health Organization or don't, but it's a non-governmental organization that tells the governments of the world how they should be doing things. Who votes on that? Who are these people? Do they have the qualifications and our best interest at heart? Well, let's examine a couple of the people that are the chief engineers, if you will, in this social engineering experiment that we're all part of. The top of the tree, that everyone knows their name, is Bill Gates. Now, we all see the majority of the world, and the way that the media has programmed us to think, Bill Gates is a philanthropist who uses his own money to benefit society. We all know that Bill Gates goes to Africa and immunises children. We all know that in organisations like the Clinton Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, we all know through the media that they're there to benefit society. Now, where do they get all this money from? And what do they do with it? So the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, for instance, is one such philanthropic group that is supposed to be out there, changing the world for the better. That's what we're told. Now you have Bill and Melinda, the Clintons, all these big, very, very wealthy people, multi-billionaires, who could solve world hunger in a heartbeat if they really chose to, but they don't. Warren Buffett, he said he's going to donate all of his billions to his foundation when he's passed, and he's already given away billions. But why would they do that? Why would they give away their billions to their own foundations? Well, of course, they are tax write-offs. And that sounds very shallow, and thinking, well, that's not very, I'm thinking too shallow on it. But there are forensic accountants who've been through many of these organisations and found that the money gets laundered from donors to their foundations, and then it gets used for political purposes. BLM is one such organisation. In addition, we'll come back to Bill Gates, don't worry. BLM is one such organisation. Now, Black Lives Matter was founded on the basis of things like George Floyd being killed. Now, you'd think that Black Lives Matter, all the money that Black Lives Matter raised through their donations, would have gone to help those black communities that are suffering with things like this, with drug addiction and socioeconomic problems and those kind of issues that these communities are suffering. Obviously, you'd think that BLM would have put that money towards those communities to benefit those communities, but no. Go to BLM's donations page and find out where the money went. To the Democrats, to Joe Biden's campaign. So Joe Biden has been in politics for 49 years, but now he has the answers, all the answers. He was a vice president for 8 years under a black president. Did things get better in America for black people? Of course they didn't. It's not about benefiting society. It's not about benefiting the communities that need the help. It is purely political and social engineering. It's designed to make people like me, middle-aged white men, out to be the enemy. I find it hilarious that people like myself are being pointed at, being called xenophobic and racist and all these kind of ridiculous terms because of the colour of my skin. Now that's racist. That's racism. When you have one group of people that has been singled out as being the problem for all today's ills, is much like what people did back in the hundreds of years ago when they pointed at black people and said black people were responsible for all the problems. It's ridiculous. It's plainly ridiculous. But it is standard divide and conquer. Divide us on every single line that can possibly divide us on, including the colour of our skin, the sex, how our sexual orientation, all those kind of things. And of course, the destruction of the family unit. Now, this is the part that's going to trigger some people, okay? The family unit traditionally is a man and a woman, because that's what it takes to create a baby. Now, obviously, nowadays with IVF, if you have two female partners, they can create a child from a frozen sperm or from a sperm donor. You know, we have the technology to do it, and we should, if we can. Why not, right? If it's going to help people to have a child where in a ordinary circumstance wouldn't be able to, then all the better. If that child is going to grow up in a loving home, I don't care if it's a gay couple that raises it. I don't care if it's a man and a woman. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. But children need to grow up in a stable home with parents who are going to be there to guide them and be able to spend their time with them. But nowadays, in today's society, most families, two parents have to work because of the way our financial system and our money markets work, and the way that our money supply keeps on getting inflated, which means the prices of everything keeps going up. The cost of living goes higher because the money supply constantly gets inflated through these economic crashes that are engineered. So traditional family units is being destroyed through the social engineering because they're, well, for multiple reasons. What I've noticed since I was younger, I'm an old man now. What I've noticed is this rise in when I was 17, 18 years old, it was all about just having as much sex as you possibly could. That's what you do when you're young. You know, don't get me wrong, I still like to do that now, but it's when you're young, that's your whole life is all about getting together with people and having a good time and, you know, having sex with the opposite sex. It's wonderful, or the same sex, whatever you're into. But when I was a kid, it was more, I don't know, I always thought more about my actions, you know. Am I going to ejaculate with a possibility that this girl that I'm with could get pregnant? You know, we've all been in situations that we probably shouldn't have got ourselves into. But, you know, I think that responsibility in our society nowadays is people just don't give a shit. Especially young men, they don't care. They have no interest in a relationship. It's just all about going and tagging as many women as you can possibly do it. And that's not just young guys nowadays, it's people my age. Why would you stay with the same woman when you can go out and get on Tinder or Grindr or whatever your preferred app is and just have sex with as many people as you possibly can, because that's what it's all about, right? Relationships are hard. They're very hard. They're exceedingly hard. But rather than work through issues in the relationship, people just want to walk away and go and get themselves a new one, you know. But the problem is as well that it's so, the way our society is based now is so surface level, you know. Oh, I like that girl because she's got a pretty face and she goes to the same gym I do and she's got a nice bum and all this surface level shit that really it's not important. Now, you know, I've spoken with my friends and people I've come into contact with many times about these kind of subjects. The issue that I see is most people they're not even honest in their relationships. They're not honest about what they expect. They're not honest about what they're after, and they don't want to say things to their partner for fears of, you know, that their partner might think they're a weirdo or that they would scare them off. Like, if you're, let's put it a different way. If you're having a one night stand, you've met someone in a bar or a club or whatever, and you go back to their place, then there's no restrictions. There's no holds barred. I mean, you go and do whatever you want to do. You know, you can be as demented, as perverted as you like, and you're not going to worry that, oh, what does this person think? Because, you know, you might not ever see them again, right? But, you know, if people can't be open and honest with their partner in their relationship about those kind of things, then how's that relationship going to last? You know, it's going to get stale. It's going to get boring. If you can't openly and honestly talk about the things that you're thinking and you're feeling, then how are you going to work through problems in your relationships? But this is the thing, our throwaway society that we live in right now, it's not about long-term relationships and doing the hard work to make sure those relationships stay strong and healthy. I've been with my wife for 20 years now, coming up to 21. It hasn't been all plain sailing and smooth and, you know, sunshine and rainbows. It hasn't. We've fought, we've argued, we haven't talked to each other for days at times. But that's normal. You know, I've got friends, we've argued and had arguments in our relationships as well, but we're still friends. You know, because you work through those things with your friendship relationships. But, you know, everything else is throwaway. It's a throwaway society that we live in. Oh, it doesn't matter if my wife or my girlfriend or doesn't live up to my expectations, even though you never communicate what those expectations are. You know, how can they live up to an expectation that you've never communicated what the expectation is? But people aren't honest. They're not honest about what they're interested in, not honest about, you know, what they want. And it is just so surface level bullshit that, you know, how can you have a society that's functional and healthy whenever it's just, I'm not interested, I'll just throw you away and get another one. So this is socially engineered. This is 100% socially engineered. And it's engineered through everything, through our movies that we watch. It's engineered through the music, you know, rap music, for instance. Now, I like rap. I love it, you know. I'm not going to pull a Kamala Harris and say, oh yeah, I smoked pot and listened to, you know, it's, you know, I'm not talking about that at all. You know, I grew up and rap music was part of my growing up, and I'm sure it's part of yours as well. You've heard it. You might like it, you might not. But when you have these guys generally that are talking about their experiences and their life growing up and their hardships and things like that, it can be, you know, people can resonate with that, and that can sort of bring people together to say, you know, like NWA, for instance. When I was young, NWA, fuck the police. I mean, everybody sang that song. And from their experience, they were being hassled by the police in America. So it was their experience at that time that they were portraying, as art does. You know, art imitates life, or life imitate art most of the time. And this is what I'm talking about. That if you listen to the lyrics, and I know this is where it's going to be like, oh, you old man, you don't understand. I do. I understand fully, and it's an expression. It's an artistic expression, but you know, not the way that it's expressed at times is very derogatory. Okay, and very flippant towards human life. Okay. Derogatory, but talking about women. Now, everybody likes to talk about Trump and, you know, he grabbed women by the pussy. Have a listen to a rap song. Just one. You know, women are called bitches and hoes and sluts and, you know, whores and all these kind of stuff in this. But that doesn't matter. That's irrelevant apparently in our society today, because that's part of culture. So, and it's deliberately engineered to be that way. You know, the record labels that are, you know, originally they were producing this, you know. Now, I know there's going to be pushback from this, and that's cool. I can handle it. But we're being socially engineered to not give a fuck about anyone or anything. Now, 50 Cent, okay, 50 Cent rapper, his song, or his album, I think it was, and a song, Get Rich or Die Trying. I think it was just an album. Now, you know, he comes from a tough neighborhood. When he was a kid, he sold drugs. You know, he got shot. You know, but the persona and the idea behind this the way that our society is bred and the ways that we're engineered is that you have to step on everybody else to get ahead, and fuck everybody else, because I'll do whatever I have to make sure I'm moving forward. So if I have to shoot somebody, then I'll do it, because I'm the most important. Now, is that a good message to be putting out there? Is that the only way you can get forward? Is that the only way you can get up, is to step on other people to do so? No, of course not. That's ridiculous. Have a look at the most successful people in the world. All of them. I don't care who they are. I worked with a very successful chef by the name of Jamie Oliver. I worked for his organisation, and his organisation was very, very successful because the team worked together to make that brand a successful brand. It's the same with any very successful person, always has a team behind them to build that forward. But that isn't transferred in our society. That's not a lesson that's learned through our social engineering programs. That is stifled, and it's all about me. And I'll do anything I have to If I have to step on other people, if I have to kill someone else, it doesn't matter, because that's what it takes, and that's what it takes. It's a dog-eat-dog world. That's socially engineered. You know, I was in Africa, and I'm not going to speak like I'm an authority on Africa at all. I spent a short period of time there. I've got friends from Africa, from different parts of Africa. But Africa, from what I saw, is very tribal. It's, you know, when a particular tribe or a group is in power, then they look after the people in their tribal group. And, yeah, that tribalistic idea, it's not just in Africa, it's everywhere. You know, this whole, what this election cycle in America showed us, here in the UK when the Brexit vote was on, it's tribalism. And it is, the way our society has been engineered, is everything's black and white. And I'm not talking about the colour of our skin, I'm talking about black and white as in our opinions. There's no grey area anymore. There's no subtle differences, there's no nuances in between. You're either for or you're against. And if you don't agree with, say, Joe Biden, then you're a racist xenophobe. Now, let's get back to Bill Gates. Bill Gates and, you know, these people, these philanthropic people who are so, you know, they're all about the betterment of society with their money. Think about this. How many billions, how many hundreds of billions have been donated to charities over the decades? How much money is apparently, you know, the Clinton Foundation? How much money has the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation pumped into Africa? Is Africa any better for it? No, it's not. We can say, well, Bill Gates is over there giving vaccines to the children in Africa. You know, those vaccines that were rejected in other countries, rejected because they had adverse side effects, those vaccines were sent to Africa. Don't believe me? Go and look for yourself. All I'm doing is presenting the information. I'm not going to hold your hand and guide you down the road and say, come with me, Timmy. I'm going to tell you where to find everything, because this isn't about that. I'm not the kind of person that sits in front of a computer screen and has screenshots of different places. You need to go and find the information for yourself. Yeah, as I said before, you have forensic accountants that have looked through these foundations and found shell companies where they wash money. And that wash money then goes into political arenas to sponsor politicians and sponsor bills that are going to benefit the people who are donating the money. So every year in the US, you know, they have or every time there's an election cycle, it costs hundreds of millions to win a presidential presidential run. Where does all that money come from, and what's required from those people if they get into that position? You know, what is all that money for? It's buying influence. So is it really governments that make the rules, or is it non-governmental organisations and their money that influence our society through the legislation and you know, through the legislations of those countries? Money talks. And if you back that with money talks, and then you have the weight of the military behind that money, then anything's possible. So it sounds pretty dark, you know. Oh, wait, we have to go back to the other one. So people like Bill Gates, okay, they look like they're philanthropists and they're all doing for the benefit of society. Look deeply into it. I would advise there's a couple of different things that you should look at. I'll point you in some directions. As nowadays YouTube is being, you know, deleting channels off their service for speaking truth to power like this. I mean, I don't expect my channel will last much longer, but the channels are being deleted off the site because they go against, not against any kind of rules that are made up. They just make stuff up to get rid of you. I know, I've been dished off a couple of sites already. They don't like the truth being told. Channels, so people have gone over to BitChute, to Rumble, to BitChute, Rumble, what else is there? tvgab.com, Gab, Rumble and BitChute. So I would suggest going and finding a man called In Pursuit of Truth, 1776. He does a series called The Weathermen. It's a 3-part series. They're about an hour long each. I would suggest you go and look at those. It will help you to understand everything about social engineering from the moment we step into school and then our journey through society. Have a look at those. The Weathermen series by In Pursuit of Truth, 1776, IPOT, 1776. There's another lady called Jan Ossengard, Dutch researcher, historian, who has done a series called Fall of the Cabal. The first series was a series of 1 to 10 that talks about social engineering. It's a lot bigger than that, but that will give you a really good understanding as well. She's already started a new series. It's on BitChute. The same thing, Fall of the Cabal. That's going to be a 17-part series, 17 parts. 17-part series, and that gives a good history. She's a historian who's done a very, very broad background of history and who the players are who are socially engineering our society. What else is there? She also does a part about the foundations. The latest one was about charity. I would suggest you watch that. It's about the things like the Red Cross when they're going into these disaster areas. Well documented, where you had senior Red Cross staff who are supposed to be there to help these people that are suffering through crises, places like Haiti, where they were demanding sex for food. Not just from women, but from children. Sick. Okay, these are non-government organisations that sit above governments. They're not beholden to anybody. Okay. So yeah, there's some source material to get you started. They document it all, so you can go and look for yourself. Please do your own research. I'm just a man. I'm just a guy talking on the internet. Don't believe me. Go and do your own research. Also, I would suggest you go and have a look at, there's 2 forensic accountants, 2 of them, forensic accountants that went and looked at the the Clinton Foundation. Have a listen to what they say. Go and Google it, or go and DuckDuckGo it. Don't use Google because you will never get the results. The forensic accountants look into Clinton Foundation. They presented evidence to the US Senate. Go and look at the testimony. Okay? You don't need to believe what I say. Go and look for yourself. Social engineering is a thing. It's being done by horrendous people. Now, the top of the tree in horrendous and the top of the tree in influence, power around the whole world, George Soros from Hungary. My wife's Hungarian. She is utterly ashamed to be called Hungarian with someone like that coming from her country. Now, George Soros uses his influence and power. Where does he get all his money from? That's a question you should really be looking into. He's a philanthropist as well, of course, with his own societies, with his own foundations. The one that you want to look at is the Open Society. That's the whole objective of the Open Society Foundation is all about promoting very, very, very left-wing ideals into our society. Now, if you go to any extreme, left-wing, right-wing, they're both terrible. You're talking about fascism and communism, right? Both of them, both tips of the wings is all about silencing everybody else that doesn't agree with their opinion. And if you look around in our society, that's where we are. Silencing anybody that doesn't believe us, to believe the same thing that we do. Difference of opinion, they're trying to stamp out. Anybody that questions the narrative, anybody that questions how they want society to run is ostracized, especially people like me and people like you if you're watching this. You cannot question the narrative. Now, I've said it before, my favorite movie, by far, it's not a movie, it's a documentary, is The Matrix. Okay? Now, I always questioned and said, okay, well, if the machines knew that the people within the Matrix were going to create computers and then come to an understanding of what the Matrix is and try and escape it, why would they allow them to create computers in the first place? Same question here. Why would I, or anybody who has a difference of opinion, who goes against the grain, who is fighting against that system, why would we have a platform? Why would we be able to have this platform to talk? Well, I probably won't for much longer, but why would we be given a platform to talk that directly goes against the social engineering? And here's what I came up with. Because you have to give people the option to choose. Because if there's no option to choose, people would all reject the programming. If it was forced into them, everyone's going to refuse it. At least this way, if there's an option to choose, then people can make their choice. They think that they're making a choice. They're not. They're obviously being socially engineered towards that choice. Because if you do speak out, you end up like me, being ostracized from everywhere. The point of this, you have a choice. And you should be able to choose what you think, and you should think for yourself. I'm not asking you to believe what I say. I'm asking you to think for yourself and go and do some research. That's all I'm saying. Go and do some research and decide what's important for you. Make the choice, because it's still yours. And while it is, if you don't take advantage of that choice, then you won't have one. Have a wonderful day. Go out, spread some joy, spread some love, be good, do good, take care of each other. I'll see you soon. Ciao for now.